them to repent and change their ways, because I'm coming.
You can live a whole lifetime without ever being awake.
And for the international order that we have worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
His task and mine might be in these meetings that we held, if suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species, from another planet, outside in the universe, we'd forget all the little local differences that we have between our countries, and we would find out once and for all that we really are all human beings here on this earth together. Well, I don't suppose we can wait for some alien race to come down and threaten us, but I think that between us we can bring about that realization.
A UFO in China's skies forced Zhoushan Airport to stop operations on July 7th. Outbound flights were grounded after the unidentified flying object was detected by a flight crew. The incident has captured the attention of Chinese media, and theories about the UFO's identity are burning up on the internet as well. They include everything from a hidden U.S. bomber to an elaborate man-made hoax. For now, the UFO continues to be a mystery. A spokesman from China's Civil Aviation Administration confirmed to ABC News that the matter is under investigation.
Some Chinese residents are on edge this morning after another apparent UFO sighting. It's the second one in 2 weeks. The first sighting was on July 7th, and an airport had to be shut down.
All right, that's a UFO if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, can you identify it?
That's undeniable.
The airport had to be shut down after people apparently saw twinkling lights above the airport terminal. 17 flights had to be diverted. The latest sighting happened just 2 days ago, and people say they saw 4 lantern-like objects forming a diamond shape in the air, hovering in the sky for over an hour. And aviation experts say they don't know what it was. It wasn't a plane.
Scientists from all over the world are trying to figure out what caused a mysterious blue light to spiral in the sky over Norway on Wednesday.
As UFO sightings go, this one was as good or as weird as it gets.
A light appearing high in the Arctic sky, baffling those who saw it and exciting a lot of comment.
And we've been hearing a lot lately about dozens of other habitable planets being discovered. And today, NASA is hosting a discussion panel about these habitable planets that are just a short, 10, 20 or so light years away from us. So RT correspondent Megan Lopez joined us earlier.
Are preparing us for something. The Great Deception is coming to our world. Without the evolutionary theory, aliens would not exist. But they do. And with more recent sightings, the scientific community talking about other life, discovering planets, the entire Big Bang universe is a hoax. The entire Big Bang universe they have constructed is to enslave us into the Great Deception that's coming into this world. The Great Deception has been planned for years. Satan, the god of this world, is preparing mankind.
It describes that the whole world is going to go to war against God. Now, I can understand the world rejecting God, I can understand the world not believing God, but somehow it's always been hard for me to visualize the world mustering its resources to go to war against God. And yet that's clearly what it says in Psalm 2 and a number of other places. But you know, suddenly I can begin to understand how this might happen, because there are many people that believe that there are already aliens among us conspiring with the government, whatever, and they visualize these as being the good guys. They're here to help us. They're here to give us advanced technology. There are people that really have this kind of attitude. I can begin to see a scenario which we sometimes call good cop, bad cop kind of thing, where Satan's emissaries pose to be our friends to help prepare us for the bad guys who are coming. And I can visualize the whole world being deceived and taking up arms against God, thinking that they're being led by their friends who are actually Satan's emissaries.
If we look into everything, we will see that the UFO alien agenda is the grand finale of the entire deception that's been placed on humanity. Why would they lie about the Big Bang universe? Why would they lie about evolution? Why are they lying to us? Why are they lying about the Earth? Because without the Earth being a planet, everything falls apart. The Earth is not a planet. God created us unique and special. The Earth is stationary. It's motionless. The Bible is very clear. The war between science and religion has been going on for thousands of years. Understand that the science community has hijacked real science, the scientific method of being able to observe, to test, to repeat, to do an experiment that can be verified. None of their claims can be verified. They mask everything in billions and millions of years. From the fossil record to our entire universe, from the stars that are in the sky, the alien agenda is the grand finale of all of the deceptions and of all the lies that have been told to this world.
Good night. Yes.
Sergeant Shaw.
Who is this?
Sergeant Raymond Shaw.
Yes?
Raymond Prentice Shaw.
Yes.
Listen. Go to the bedroom of your suite. Enter the hallway there. Go to the end and open the closet. Hello, Raymond.
Hello.
Do you remember me?
No, sir, I don't.
Brilliant. We've got 20 minutes for a little checkup from the neck up, gentlemen, so if we could take his jacket, please sit down.
My name is Carol Rosen. I'm an educator who became the first woman corporate manager of an aerospace company, Fairchild Industries. I'm a space and missile defense consultant. I've consulted to a number of companies, organizations, government departments, even the intelligence community. I was a consultant to TRW working on the MX missile, so I was part of that strategy, which turned out to be a role model for how to sell space-based weapons to the public, the MX missile being yet another weapon system that we didn't need. And I founded the Institute for Security and Cooperation in Outer Space, a Washington, D.C. based think tank. I'm an author and have testified before the Congress, the President's Commission on Space, and to a number of committees of that kind of relevance. Wernher von Braun never spoke to me about any of the details that he knew or might have known or thought about related to extraterrestrials, except that extraterrestrials were one day going to be identified as an enemy against whom we are going to have to build an enormous space-based weapon system. Even though he didn't give me the details, however, the look in his eyes made it clear to me that he knew that there was something going on that was a big secret that he could not divulge. Wernher von Braun actually told me that the spin was a lie, that the premise for space-based weaponry, the reasons that were going to be given, the enemies that we were going to identify, were all based on a lie. And the way he said it with the intenseness in his eyes, and added that very first day, the first time I met him, that space-based weapons were a dangerous, destabilizing, too costly, unnecessary, untestable, unworkable idea. And that the last card that was being held was the extraterrestrial enemy card. The intensity with which he said that made me realize that he knew something that he was too afraid to mention. He was too afraid to talk about it. He would not tell me the details. I'm not sure that I would have absorbed them if he had told me the details or even believed him in 1974. But there was no question that that man knew, and had a need to know, I found out later. There's no doubt in my mind that Wernher von Braun knew about the extraterrestrial issue.
Some of the passages that puzzle me the most in the scripture, it describes that the whole world is going to go to war against God. Now, I can understand the world rejecting God, I can understand the world not believing God, but somehow it's always been hard for me to visualize the world mustering its resources to go to war against God. And yet that's clearly what it says in Psalm 2 and a number of other places. But you know, suddenly I can begin to understand how this might happen, because there are many people that believe that there are already aliens among us conspiring with the government, whatever, and they visualize these as being the good guys. They're here to help us. They're here to give us advanced technology. There are people that really have this kind of attitude. I can begin to see a scenario which we sometimes call good cop, bad cop kind of thing, where Satan's emissaries pose to be our friends to help prepare us for the bad guys who are coming. And I can visualize the whole world being deceived and taking up arms against God, thinking that they're being led by their friends who are actually Satan's emissaries.
They have been stripped of their apparel. They go naked. And they have horrible faces.
This is a quote from an early Jewish writing called the Book of the Cave of Treasures. It tells of fallen angels and their bastard children called the Nephilim. God destroyed the Nephilim's bodies and doomed them to wander the earth in an invisible dimension, and they are still terrifying men. In our modern paradigm, they are known as demon spirits. The word demon is from the Greek language and implies a supernatural knowledge. This demon knowledge is superior to our own knowledge. The Bible tells of their creation in Genesis chapter 6, and they were the cause of the destruction of life on earth. The Apocrypha and early Jewish writings expound on these evil spirits. The Book of Enoch tells of their giant stature and how they manipulated the genetics of man and animals in every imaginable way. In other words, no stone was left unturned in their evil experiments.
Imagine 100 years ago, a farmer standing in his field one night, and he sees some lights in the sky and they're interacting with each other and moving as if they're guided intelligently. But 150 years ago, they've never seen a motor car. You don't have any concept of alien worlds, spaceship or anything. So you will interpret it within your cultural understanding of the day. Okay, so he might say, well, maybe it's an angel or a demon or something like that. Now, let's shift forward today. What's the first thing somebody would say if they saw some lights moving around the sky? It's a UFO. Now, UFO is a loaded word. It doesn't mean unidentified flying object anymore. It means alien spaceship piloted by extraterrestrials. So that's why I think the idea has become so mainstream.
And specifically the fallen ones, fallen angels, which we read about back in Genesis 6, once again manifesting on the earth. So there is evidence. There's plenty of evidence. We've got the witnesses.
The popular documentary Ancient Aliens is trying its best to convince people aliens from other planets are responsible for the creation and evolution of mankind. They openly deny the God of the Bible while interpreting Bible passages in the same breath. I believe this is one of the deceptions Jesus alluded to concerning the end times, deceiving even the elect. The ancient alien theorists point to many artifacts and structures and claim these extraterrestrial aliens built them in the ancient past. I believe some of this is true, but these entities are not aliens from another planet. They are demonic spirits from an alternate universe, where they were sentenced by God. They are now disguising themselves as alien greys and are pretending to help man. Their spirit is also behind the transhumanism movement, the altering of human DNA. Most people are not even aware of what is going on behind closed doors. Scientists are actively manipulating the genes of animals and man under the guise of improving humanity.
I'm sorry, but when you look into the founding of these organizations and the people involved, there's absolutely no reason whatsoever that I will ever trust these people. And when I look at their allegiance against God, against his anointed, against the Messiah, and all the things that they do in favor of the man of sin, the man of lawlessness, the beast, the Antichrist, whose number is 666, and all of the things associated with the globe that they push, that just so happen to also, in one way or another, end up equating to some form of 666, I have to be honest with you, it sure does look like, if not the great delusion itself, a big portion of it, a huge portion of it. Evolution is not even remotely plausible without the cosmology that is being pushed in the Copernican model. The whole idea of suns eventually spitting out, or, you know, in the process of forming, creating planets that cool and orbit around suns, and the whole idea that all the stars that we see out there in the heavens are suns just like our sun, and likely with planets going around them just like we have planets going around our sun, supposedly. The possibility that some of those could have life on them, to me, all of this is a big setup. And one of the things that I find interesting about the idea that Flat Earth is coming out now is I believe we're getting really close to some sort of disclosure event. And you've got other people out there, of course, the Ancient Aliens crowd always pushing it. The Anunnaki and whatnot are ancient alien creators. Evolution has run its course. It's gone completely bankrupt. So even people like Professor Richard Dawkins saying, well, intelligence design, is likely the way it could come about, but it would come about in the following way, that some ancient civilization out there in the universe, who itself allegedly evolved from some sort of Darwinian evolution type of scenario, reached a high level of sophistication and came here and seeded our world with the mechanism that made evolution possible here. Of course, it just keeps pushing the problem further out. How did that other, if it requires intelligent design to kickstart evolution, then how did that other allegedly advanced civilization out there evolve? I mean, sooner or later, you're going to get to a first cause, and that first cause is going to be God. But this narrative is being pushed on us that ancient aliens have been here before. They were likely our creators, or at least helped kickstart life, and they're coming back. UFO sightings are increasing exponentially every year. UFO and alien abduction scenarios are being reported exponentially more and more every year.
There's never been a phenomenon like this. This is completely unprecedented. What was happening was that people were talking about this reproductive material. People were having sperm taken, they were having eggs taken. People report that they were having embryos injected into them and sometimes retrieved from them. I began to hear accounts of abductees who were taken into a room and their attention would be directed to a screen-like device. And on the screen, there would be a scene of normal human activity. A picnic, kids playing ball, guys standing around a grill, people talking to each other. And they'll hear in their mind, can you tell the difference between you and us? And the person will look at the screen and say, no, everybody looks the same to me. And I'll say, see, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that great? Soon we will all be together. Soon it will be wonderful. Soon everybody will be happy. Now, you hear that once. It's not a pattern. You hear that once, you just discard it. Interesting, who knows? But when you begin to hear it over and over again, then suddenly it has different meaning. This is from other people who are not aware of this testimony. And then I began to understand that what they were telling these abductees, what these beings were telling these abductees, is that ultimately this is an integration program into the society, not with gray aliens most likely, but with these hybrids who look quite human.
So, what's the motivation? Why would they lie, if that's the case? Well, first, to get people to doubt Yahuwah's word by destroying the very foundation of our Bible, Genesis, specifically the creation account, number one. 2, set up a new paradigm where God is out and science is in. Evolution removes Yahuwah from the equation. 3, when evolution finally runs its course and becomes utterly bankrupt, introduce the idea of intelligent design. But deny the true designer his due credit and place it rather on ancient aliens. Promote the ancient alien theme as much as possible in all forms of media by perpetuating the concept of Earth as a tiny blue marble orbiting an average sun in an average galaxy among trillions of other galaxies in an ever-expanding universe. With so much potential for life to exist in such a vast expanse, the idea of alien scientists being our creators seems a lot more plausible over time and heavy indoctrination. And 5, the stage is set for our alien creators to return and bestow upon us their miracles, signs, and wonders in order to convince us all the more that all religions are false. We then put our trust in them. Finally, when Christ does return, we are all convinced that he is the enemy and our united world gathers together to make war with him, according to Psalm 2, Revelation 16, and Revelation 19.
And since I didn't have time to go over those particular scriptures at the conference, I'll do it here now. Let's have a look at those. The nations of the world intend to go to war with Yeshua. Psalm 2. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. Revelation 16 is the fulfillment of that. It talks about the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, going forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon. And in Revelation 19:19, and I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. And the him, in this case, is Yeshua, coming back on that white horse. So we know the end game. The end game is the whole world at some point is going to gather together to make war with God. And other places in the scripture, we see that the heavens are going to roll away like a scroll. And, I think if we're under this thing called the firmament, when that thing peels back like a great big football stadium and everybody sees what's up there and what's coming, ooh, well, that's when everybody's going to know the true nature of the cosmos for sure. But, when it comes to, let's say, a worldwide conspiracy, those who are ruling and reigning in this world, the superpowers, behind the scene, the puppet masters, they know with whom they are at war. And so they've got to get the rest of us to help them build the weapons necessary to make war with this being from elsewhere. And I think the big setup right now, as you look at what the presidents have said, if you look at what Stephen M. Greer has said, if you look at what Dr. Carol Rosin said, quoting Wernher von Braun, the whole alien thing is a big fraud. It's either fallen angel activity, demonic, and or human agencies creating a great deception to get everybody convinced that we have to make weapons to get ready for space invaders, when the reality of it is evolution doesn't work, ancient aliens doesn't work, everything that's in the cosmos is within the firmament, therefore everything is much smaller and much closer. There is no real threat out there. The only real legitimate threat to those who hate God is God. So that forms, at least in my mind, a very plausible motivation for why they would lie.
Dude, you've been fucking fooled. Everyone's been fooled. Think about all the lies. The lies go deep. You know what people think, like, oh, flat earth and the moon landing, that's a distraction from the real conspiracy theories? That's what I used to think. You know what I think? I think those conspiracy theories, the mainstream conspiracies, are a distraction for the real conspiracy, where we're on, what we're on. They're trying to keep God from us. They're trying to keep the Creator from us. They're making us insignificant when this is a special fucking place one. Who knows what shape it is? They're trying to keep God from us. They're trying to keep the Creator from us. They're making us insignificant.
a conspiracy to hide this information that DNA is a Fibonacci, is an exemplification of this number called, or entity, ratio sequence called the golden ratio, the ratio that proves the existence of intelligent design, or the reality of intelligent design of the cosmos. I mean, if you go to the golden ratio site for Wikipedia too on the same theme, they don't mention any of this stuff in nature that we're going to talk about here, that we talked about on the show 2 days ago, and that we're talking about here. They talk about how it's found in architecture and math and all this kind of stuff. They don't discuss it how it's found in the measurements of the human arm. Why not? It's just, I mean, well, I think I'm making, that's the point here. I think that just made sense to me, thinking this through as I say it to you. It has to be a conspiracy. How could all this be overlooked, and how could Wikipedia leave it out? It can't be. There has to be somehow that big money has pushed their influence somehow, and they've had a drive to keep this covered up or something. These can't all be coincidences, and since they're doing that with everything else, it has to be the case that there's some movement to keep this stifled. I mean, why isn't? And here's another piece to add to this. Why isn't this in our education system? We learn all this junk geometry, pea-brain stuff when you take geometry in high school, and they don't teach you about any of this, the golden ratio everywhere in nature. I went through elementary school, you know, high school, college, undergrad degree in college, master's degree, and halfway through PhD, and never was any of this mentioned. And we know who controls the universities, the big money behind it, all the way up to the Illuminati Nephilim controllers. So this can't be. This is planned, okay? And you just wonder. It's got to. I mean, I'm almost concluding here in my mind this Davidson College site showing up #1 in Google all the time, and first page, and Wikipedia having these strange measurements which don't correlate with all kinds of these examples from academic sites I'm finding. I'm putting them all, pictures of the screenshots in the newsletter. It's got to be a conspiracy. I mean, we could keep going compiling the evidence; it would just all lead to it. So, and if we could keep compiling evidence of it being a conspiracy, I mean, everything points towards it. I'm just throwing ideas off the top of my head. These strange sites show up at the top. Wikipedia is wrong. It's covered up completely in the best-selling books about the golden ratio, which come from wealthy university professors. It's the universities and the government-controlled education system absolutely covers it up. You see how, I mean, everything's falling in the same direction. You know, so when everything, all these conclusions point to the same direction, that it's covered up and hidden.
The old appeals to racial, sexual, and religious chauvinism, to rabid nationalist fervor, are beginning not to work.
Business of who I am and whether I'm good or bad or achieving or not, all that's learned along the way.
Just a ride. And we can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice. No effort, no work, no job, no savings of money.
I realized that I had the game wrong. That the game was to find out what I already was.
Second Thessalonians 2, beginning in verse 9. The coming of the lawless one, the Antichrist. This is talking about the beast, the lawless man, the lawless one, the man of sin, the beast. These are all terms used to describe this Antichrist character. His coming will be accompanied by the power of Satan. He will use every kind of power, including miraculous signs, lying wonders. Ooh, look at the latest digital picture from the Hubble Space Telescope, and that sort of thing. And every type of evil to deceive those who are dying, those who refused to love the truth that would have saved them. For this reason, for the reason that people would rather follow the beast, that system, that man, and didn't have a love of the truth, for that reason, God will send them a powerful delusion so that they will believe the lie. You know, I think a lot of people probably think that the great deception, the big delusion, is coming from the Antichrist, but it actually tells you right here, because you would rather follow the Antichrist and because you don't have a love of the truth, that God himself is sending this delusion. So if God is the one setting this up, it's going to be really powerful. It's going to be very, very convincing. The math will work out for it, and it's going to be really hard to disprove. And it was, as I was looking at this, it was at that point that I began to realize, well, okay, wait a minute. If people, you know, how many times throughout the scriptures do we see Jesus, Yeshua, saying things like, you know, those who have eyes, let them see. Those who have ears, let them hear. To those who don't want to see and to those who don't want to hear, I'm never going to convince them. And this was actually kind of freeing for me, because I realized, you know, it's not going to be, it's not my job. I can certainly present evidence. I can present things from Scripture that I believe to be true. But if people don't want to believe what the Bible has to say, if they don't want to believe God, if they would rather follow the beast system, if they would rather walk in lawlessness, well, God turns people over to a reprobate mind. You see that all throughout the Old Testament. Oh, you want to worship the pagan deities? You don't want to worship me? You don't want to do things my way? You know, he'll give warning after warning, and then finally he says, all right, you know what? Fine. If that's what you want, go for it. Knock yourself out. Then all who have not believed the truth, but have taken pleasure in unrighteousness, will be condemned. I wrote quite a bit in my first book, Babylon Rising and the First Shall Be Last, about a character in the Bible known as Nimrod. And I show how he became known by many other names throughout various cultures, primarily due to the dispersion of the languages at the Tower of Babel. Everybody left that event, the building of this tower, when God confounded their languages, and they went off into 70 different directions, 70 different languages, 70 different people groups, all talking about the same guy, but now in different languages. So he became known by many names, one of which I contend in that book is the name Apollo. That Nimrod became known as Apollo by the time you get to the Greek culture. And again, all that's explained in the book, and I've got plenty of videos online regarding that, so you can check that out, and his association with the number 666.